are many, many kinds of potatoes, really many colors. We could have the orange of a sweet potato, a beautiful blue potato, we have a yellow or gold potato here, your standard white russet potatoes. You can really cut them or chop them all the same ways. So if you have a really clean, organic, well-washed potato, you can leave the skin on. Of course, it also depends on what you're going to make. If you want to make a nice creamy mashed potato without really anything to detract from that, you definitely want to peel your potato. If you want it to be more rustic and have those bits of peel in there, then certainly leave them on. And then there's also a different thickness of skin. So the sweet potato is going to have a much thicker skin, which you may want to cook it in but then not eat. Some people like to eat the skin of the sweet potatoes. And then this gold potato, it's going to be really thin, and so it's not going to be that noticeable, especially in, say, a roasted dish. So again, it really just depends on what you want your outcome to be. So let's go ahead and peel these just to show how to do that, and then I'll show you a couple of different ways to chop potatoes. So a lot of people will peel with a peeler. I am doing this because the way I actually peel potatoes is how I learned from my Irish mom and grandma and great grandma, and it's not the safest way with a paring knife. So I'm going to show you a way that's safe, and certainly if there's another way that you're really comfortable doing it, peeled thousands of potatoes the other way and it's been fine, but certainly not the way to start out. So again, there's many right ways to do something. All right, so we'll just get all that peel off. And sometimes there's eyes in potatoes. I'll show you that on the yellow one. There's not much on the gold or yellow potato. Russet potatoes tend to have bigger eyes, and eyes just like these little indentations. So that's where a new potato can sprout, actually, and you might see some sprouts coming out of potatoes. If you do see sprouts coming out of potatoes, as long as it feels like it's still nice and firm and crisp, you can just cut that out and go ahead and use it. The flavor may start to get off, but if they start to become squishy and not that nice crisp firm texture, then you would want to definitely discard it, or start your potato growing career. If you wanted to go into farming, it might be a good time to plant them. So we have our peeled sweet potato here. It rolls around, so we want to make a nice flat surface. I usually find the widest side to do that and make a slice so I have a nice flat edge. And then let's say we wanted to dice it. So I find that I'm actually going to cut this in half so I can do a couple different things with it. So let's say we wanted to dice this like roasting. I really love roasted sweet potatoes, either warm as a side dish or as they've cooled off to room temperature on salads or in many other things. So now I'll just cut it. You can cut it either the long way or the short way into pieces. I'm going to have maybe nice 1-inch pieces. Give us a nice big toothsome bite for roasting. Depending on what size you want would be how far your slices are apart from each other. So there's roughly 1-inch cubes or large dice. Again, if you've watched some of the other videos, you might have heard me comment on how we would do this in culinary school. So we would make all the edges perfectly square. There'd be a lot of scraps you would use for, say, mashed potatoes or some other purpose, and you'd make absolutely perfect dice. I'm showing you how you're probably going to do it at home, so we're not doing that right now, but you certainly, if you want to do a master class in cooking, absolutely should get out your ruler and go to town. So for this, I have just still the round. If you want it perfectly round, you might want to leave that original piece that we sliced off. This is safer, so we'll do this. So let's say you want to make chips or you just want round pieces for whatever reason, you could cut it this way. So little slices. Nice to roast them like this. You could also cut fries. I like doing different shapes, it just mixes it up and makes it more fun. So here, we got to the edge where we cut off that flat side so you can see how to do the round. So just want to make sure that if you slip, your fingers are well tucked in so you're not going to cut yourself. Rounds are always trickiest because there's that rolling. So you can toss these with a little bit of olive oil, a little salt and pepper, roast them in an oven about 400 degrees. What you can also do if you just want them to have a more steamed or, non-caramelized, non-roasted texture, but you want them to be tender or done, or you want to pan saute them so that you can cook them more quickly, you can actually put them on a damp paper towel on a plate in the microwave, cover them with another plate or paper towel, and just go ahead and microwave them until they're fork tender when you poke them with a fork. And then they're actually ready where you could just do a quick saute in a pan in a little bit of oil, caramelize them, and they're kind of like a super quick fry equivalent made with much less oil. So I like to do that a lot, especially if I'm, you know, I have 20 minutes or something to make dinner and there's no time in that period to roast or, you know, prepare potatoes in another way. But my kids have asked for sweet potatoes. I might make them that way. So again, this gold potato is nice and smooth. It has a thin skin. I already showed you how to peel the other potato. Just because it's a different type doesn't make the peeling any different. So I just won't peel this one. We'll go ahead and just cut it into more of a fry shape. So make a flat side. So you can see why it's called a yellow or gold potato. It's a nice, beautiful yellow color. And also for fries, I like them rustic. I like a little bit of peel. I would actually recommend, if you're going to do a fry, to use a russet potato, just because you get a nice, that's the texture that you're going to be more used to with a fry. This is going to be more of a creamy texture, these yellow gold potatoes. So these make a really beautiful mashed potato if you're trying to pick your best potato for cooking the dish that you're going to make. So I have cut this just in, you know, similarly sized slices to make some skinny fries. You can get rid of the top part if you want. You know, I just use the whole thing. I don't care that much. So we'll just make sure that we use our fingers to hold that in place. They do like to slide, so you have to be careful. Do, you know, kind of have an out for your fingers. And there we have, you know, some nice fries with that little rustic peel there. And what you can do to make sure that they cook nicely is you can just cook them like this. They do tend to exude a little moisture, so you can pat them dry before you do any roasting or, you know, cooking in any other way. If you don't want them to brown, let's say you want to cut them ahead of time, any yellow or white potatoes like russets are going to brown. So you can actually soak them in some cold water in the fridge. You just would want to make sure that if you're going to fry them, they're perfectly dry, because that water will spatter and be a safety hazard. And if you want to roast them, you just want to get off as much water as possible, because that water is going to prevent those sugars from caramelizing with the contact the pan, and, you know, the heat coming in, it will more steam on the pan. So here are just a few ways to cut potatoes. You can certainly do a smaller cut. You can look back at the carrot technique video to see how to julienne. You would julienne the potato very similarly. You can look at our pepper video to see how you would make a small dice or brunoisette. Many different potato cuts that you could do.